A $400,000 home at today's rates will cost you $958,000 by the time it is paid off. Ownership costs surged 71% since 2020. First-time buyers hit a record low, 21% of the market. But the reason an entire generation cannot buy a house goes deeper than prices. 6 forces converged in under 5 years to lock you out, and the first starts with who is actually winning the bidding wars. A 29-year-old teacher in Austin scrolls through listings every night, but each time she finds a place, the numbers just do not add up. In 2020, a starter home in her neighborhood cost around $320,000. Now the median price is over $475,000, a 48% jump in just 4 years. Phoenix is not far behind with a 42% rise, and Denver tops 45%. For buyers relying on a mortgage, the monthly payment on a median-priced home has soared by 71% since 2020. That means what cost $1,400 a month before now demands nearly $2,400 a month, even before factoring in insurance or taxes. Wages have not kept pace. Across the country, real incomes for people in their late 20s and 30s barely budged, growing less than 5% after inflation. The math is brutal. Even with 2 full-time incomes, the monthly outlay for a basic house now eats up more than a third of take-home pay in most cities. The result is a collapse in first-time buyer participation. In 2023, only 21% of home sales went to people buying their first house, the lowest share ever recorded. In the hardest-hit metros, more than half of renters now spend over 30% of their income just to keep a roof overhead. In Austin, Phoenix and Denver, that rent-burdened share hovers between 55 and 62%. For many, the American dream of owning a home has become a numbers game they simply cannot win. A young couple in Denver lines up for a Sunday open house, pre-approval letter in hand, only to watch the home disappear to a buyer offering cash, no contingencies, no delays. But their competition is not another family. It is an institutional buyer, the kind that buys dozens of single-family homes in a single zip code, funded by private equity or a real estate trust. These buyers, often faceless limited liability companies, now account for over 5% of all single-family home purchases nationwide, a jump from just 3% in 2019. In the hottest markets like Austin and Phoenix, their share climbs even higher, with more than 30% of entry-level homes in some neighborhoods held by institutional owners. Armed with deep pockets, these funds routinely make cash offers that outpace what any mortgage buyer can match. On average, institutional bids come in 2 to 4% above what an ordinary buyer can afford. For a $450,000 house, that is an extra $9,000 to $18,000, money most families simply do not have. Sellers, eager for a quick close, take the sure thing. The result is a cycle where homes that once welcome new owners instead become long-term rentals managed by distant corporations. Renters pay the price. Data shows that single-family homes owned by institutional investors command rents 5 to 10% higher than similar owner-occupied properties. In neighborhoods where these buyers are most active, the upward pressure on both prices and rents is unmistakable. For first-time buyers, the dream of home ownership is no longer just about saving enough for a down payment. It is about competing with entities that can buy entire blocks at once, reshaping the market in their favor. Locked into ultra-low mortgage rates, millions of homeowners now face an impossible trade-off. More than 65% of outstanding home loans were secured at rates under 3%, deals that have become golden handcuffs. If these owners try to move, they are hit with a monthly payment jump of $500 to $1,200 for a similar house, thanks to today's 7% mortgages. According to the Federal Housing Finance Agency, between 1.3 and 1.7 million home sales never happened over the past 4 years, because selling would mean giving up a cheap loan and taking on a much costlier one. Each percentage point increase in prevailing rates reduces the likelihood of a sale by nearly a fifth. The result is a market where listings have dried up to historic lows, leaving would-be buyers with few options and pushing prices even higher. This rate-locked gridlock has turned America's housing supply into a waiting room with millions of owners staying put, not because they want to, but because the math makes moving unaffordable. A $400,000 mortgage at today's 7% rate comes with a monthly payment of $2,661. At first glance, it looks like a simple rent replacement, but the math behind that payment tells a different story. Over 30 years, the borrower pays nearly $958,000, more than double the original loan. Of that, $558,000 is pure interest, money that never builds equity or improves the home. In the first 5 years, almost 3/4 of every payment goes straight to the lender, not the principal. After 5 years, the buyer has chipped away just $30,000 of the original debt, barely a dent. It takes about a decade before the amount owed drops enough to refinance or sell with real equity. For many, this is not just a higher monthly bill, it is a financial trap that stretches for decades. The promise of home ownership becomes a long-term obligation, with most of the early years spent paying off interest rather than owning more of the home. The true cost is not just in the sticker price, it is buried in the fine print of the loan itself. Single-family zoning stands as a silent gatekeeper, controlling what can be built and where. In most major metros, these rules reserve vast stretches of land for detached houses only, blocking apartments, duplexes, and even modest townhomes from ever breaking ground. The result is a supply deficit that cannot be solved by market demand alone. Nationally, the housing shortfall now tops 3.8 million units, a gap that has grown wider each year as new construction falls behind due to population growth. Between 2020 and 2024, zoning restrictions in cities like Austin, Phoenix, and Denver prevented an estimated 200,000 to 300,000 new homes from being built. Even when developers are ready to add more housing, local ordinances keep entire neighborhoods off limits to anything but single-family homes. This artificial scarcity drives prices up and locks out families who might otherwise afford a starter condo or a small multi-family unit. The policy choices embedded in zoning codes shape who gets access to housing and who is left waiting for a home that never gets built. Owning a home means more than just paying the mortgage. Every year, property taxes claim about 1.2% of a home's value, roughly $4,800 on a $400,000 house. Insurance premiums add another $1,200 to $2,000, with higher rates in states hit by wildfires or hurricanes. Homeowners association dues, common in new developments, can run from $200 to $500 a month. Then there's maintenance like leaky roofs, broken appliances and landscaping averaging 1 to 2% of the home's value each year. Added together, these hidden costs inflate the true price of ownership by 10 to 15%, quietly pushing many buyers beyond what their budget can handle. Student debt now weighs on millions of would-be buyers before they even start a home search. The National Student Loan tab stands at $1.7 trillion, with the average borrower owing between $35,000 and $45,000. That translates into monthly payments, often $350 to $450, that show up on every mortgage application. Lenders use a strict debt-to-income ratio, and once student loans eat up more than 15% of monthly income, most banks say no. Even with a steady job and good credit, that single line on a loan statement can tip an applicant from approved to denied. For many, the dream of buying a house ends before it begins, not because of the housing market itself, but because of the legacy of education debt. 3 levers could start to ease the crunch, but none offer a quick fix. Zoning reform, opening up land for apartments and townhomes, could raise housing supply by 5 to 10% within 3 to 5 years. Subsidies or mortgage credits might trim $150 to $250 from monthly payments for qualifying buyers, but even with that help, rent growth would only slow modestly over 1 to 3 years. Capping institutional home purchases could begin to level the playing field, yet a full reset of affordability is a decade-long project. For buyers waiting on the sidelines, change is possible, but patience will be required. Right now, the median home costs over 6 times the average annual wage, a gap wider than at any point in modern United States history. Until policy catches up to reality, entire generations face a future where home ownership is an exception, not the rule. The American dream is being rewritten in real time.